something scary is coming. In the last few hours, overwhelming evidence has emerged. A global system has used billions of dollars to destroy faith around the world. They have funded atheism, gender ideology in schools, anti-family campaigns, and even direct attacks on Christianity. And you know what's the most shocking thing? The church was involved. Stay until the end, because you will find answers to many of your questions. What is emerging in these hours is something never seen before. A scandal that shakes not only politics, but also the church itself. It all started when the United States government decided to cut funding to several NGOs, many of them Catholic. But what seemed like a simple budget cut has revealed a deeply corrupt system, a web of power and money rotten to the core. In recent years, these NGOs have received hundreds of millions of dollars for humanitarian projects to help the poor, the sick, the marginalized. But it is now clear that much of that money never reached those who needed it. Worse still, it has been used to finance programs contrary to Catholic doctrine, to spread ideas that go against faith and morals, to infiltrate the church itself and manipulate its message. Official documents show that some of the funds were earmarked to promote atheism in traditionally Christian nations, support programs that undermine the family, and spread ideologies that openly deny the Church's teaching. If you appreciate our information service and believe in the values of truth and transparency, buy a super thank you. Each content requires commitment, study, and dedication, and our work is entirely self-financed. Your support helps us continue this mission. Thank you very much. The leaked documents reveal that these funds, managed by USAID, the government's international aid agency, have been used to promote family-destroying ideologies, fund campaigns to alienate young people from the faith, and push the culture of death agenda in Catholic nations. And to make things even more disturbing, many of these organizations are directly linked to the Vatican. Now we understand why in recent years bishops and cardinals have remained silent in the face of certain cultural battles. Why have they not defended marriage, life, Christian identity? Why, instead of openly denouncing evil, did they prefer to talk about climate, economy, and global politics? Because they took money from those who wanted to silence them. But the most absurd thing is that these funds were not cut for moral reasons, but because the government has finally begun to investigate waste and abuse in the international aid system. And the moment the flow of money stopped, the house of cards collapsed. Now, devastating evidence is emerging of how the church has been used as a tool to spread anti-Christian ideologies, of how some high-ranking prelates have made secret deals to obtain more funds, of how money intended for the poor has been used to destroy the faith itself. USAID was created to provide economic aid to countries in difficulty, but over time, it has become an instrument of political and ideological pressure. Now Trump and Elon Musk are working to permanently close it. The funds were granted with specific conditions, and those who accepted the money had to conform to certain policies. This mechanism worked for years in full view of everyone, hidden behind words such as rights, equality, and progress. The system was simple. USAID distributed funding to local, often Catholic NGOs, who in turn used it to run development projects. But that money wasn't free at all. To get the money, these organizations had to accept the imposed agenda. If they refused, funding was cut and political pressure increased. In Chile, for example, a Protestant pastor denounced that the government has imposed ideological sex education programs in public schools, despite parents' opposition. And why? Because the country was at risk of losing USAID funding. This was not an isolated case, but a real system. Those who complied with the new directives received the funds. Those who opposed were left without resources. The same scheme was applied in Ireland, where USAID funded an event called Ireland 100. Officially, it was supposed to celebrate the centenary of Irish independence, but in reality, it was a targeted attack on Catholicism, an attempt to rewrite the country's history and redefine its Christian identity. And it doesn't stop there. Official documents from the US State Department confirm that millions of dollars have been channeled into social engineering operations around the world. The funds have been used to promote atheism in Nepal, fund LGBT groups in Africa, support progressive NGOs in Latin America, and fuel media campaigns against Christian values in Europe. All this happened with the indirect support of the Church, which received its share of the spoils. The Holy See itself benefited from these funds. Documents show that millions of dollars were transferred to the Vatican. This money has been used to push governments and multinationals to align with new climate policies, turning the Church into a vehicle to reinforce the globalist agenda. Now everything is clear. Now we understand why bishops and cardinals have remained silent on certain issues or have taken ambiguous positions. It wasn't prudence, it was convenience. These same men of the Church received millions of dollars from organizations that wanted to transform faith into something harmless, emptied of its essence, adapted to modern times. This discovery has triggered a wave of panic internationally. Even journalists and politicians, who until yesterday defended the establishment, are trying to distance themselves. But they are not doing it for moral reasons. They are doing it because they know that the system is collapsing. This scandal is not only destroying some Catholic organizations, it is dismantling a mechanism of power that has lasted for decades. The truth can no longer be ignored. Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano knew. He had written it down in black and white in a letter to Donald Trump, when the then President of the United States was at the center of an unprecedented political battle. That letter, which at the time seemed like a simple warning, today appears as a prophecy that is being fulfilled before our eyes. Vigano did not limit himself to talking about politics. His message was clear. There is a hidden system, a deep state, and a deep church, which operates in the shadows to destroy the sovereignty of nations and undermine faith from within. Today, after the revelations about USAID and the financing system that corrupted the Church, those words take on an even more disturbing meaning. The Archbishop explained that the deep state is not an abstract idea, but a network of power composed of politicians, bureaucrats, multinationals, and groups of influence that drive governments and institutions, imposing their agenda above the popular will. But the most shocking part of his denunciation concerned the Church. According to him, there is a deep church, a sort of parallel church infiltrated by people who do not work for Christ, but for the world. These false shepherds have opened the doors to anti-Christian ideologies, have changed the language of faith, have abandoned the spiritual mission to embrace a secularized and globalist agenda. Now we know how they did it. The documents that have emerged show that for years, the Church has received funds from organizations such as USAID in exchange for silence on certain issues and support for certain policies. It is the principle of solve et coagula, the esoteric motto that Vigano himself had cited in his letter. Destroy the existing order to rebuild it in one's own image. First, the foundations of faith are dismantled, then they are replaced with something new, more malleable, more controllable. The topic is complex and requires further investigation, also because new details emerge every day. If you want another video on the topic, write it in the comments. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.